Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about input-output tables. So you guys have seen input-output tables before. The premise of it is that there's a pattern that's happening to numbers that are in a table. The number that is being input, something is happening to it, and it is coming out differently depending on what the rule is. Okay, so we're going to start with an example. That is talking about children and feet. Okay, so we're going to draw this table at the top. It only needs to be 2 lines big, and it just needs to come right across like this. Okay, and then we're going to separate it this way, and then we're going to do this, like a little bit bigger of a piece, and then 4 more pieces. So, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so this should say number of children, okay, and then this should say number of feet. All right, so let's say that this is, let's say that the number of children that we're looking at is 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And then the number of feet becomes 10, 12, 14, 16. 10, 12, 14, 16. All right? So, the first step that we need to do is we need to make a double T-chart. Okay, so let's say step 1. Step 1, make a double T-chart and fill in the information from your table, okay? And fill in the info from your table, okay? And then you're going to leave room in the middle for a rule. All right, so that's step 1. So let's go ahead and do that. So a double T-chart looks a little something like this. It's going to look like this. We're going to do like this, and then we're going to come across like this. So you see how it's 2 T's connected? So it's called a double T-chart. So on this side, we need to say number of children, and then number of feet. And in the middle, we're going to say rule. Okay? On all caps, rule. All right? And then we're going to fill in our information. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8. So you see I'm just copying 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 10, 12, 14, 16. All right? So second step. Step 2. As you look at your T-chart horizontally, remember horizontal is this way, right? We're looking this way, so we're looking from 5 to 10. We're looking from 6 to 12. We're looking from 7 to 14, okay? So as you look at your T-chart horizontally, is the first number getting bigger or smaller? Is that first number getting, let's change colors, bigger or is it getting smaller? as you go across. That's what it's talking about horizontally. So if I'm looking at 5, does 5 get bigger or smaller as I go horizontally to 10? Well, it gets bigger, right? So there's a couple things that are going to happen. So if I have, if my number is getting bigger, here's your two rules right here. So bigger, let's use this one. If it's getting bigger, your two options in your rule are to multiply or add. If your number is getting smaller, you're going to divide or subtract. Okay? Let's go ahead and put a cloud around that because that's really important information that we need to make sure that we focus on. So 5 to 10, is that getting bigger or smaller? That's getting bigger. So our options in our rule are either going to be to multiply or add. Okay, so once you pick that, multiply or add, I want you to write that. We're going to say like this. Write multiply, add, subtract, divide, like whichever one it is, if it's adding or if it's multiplying or adding, or if it's subtracting and dividing, above rule. Okay, so in this case, because we're getting bigger, we're going to write that we're multiplying or adding, right? So right up here, I'm going to put x or plus. Okay, x or plus, because I'm multiplying or adding. So this third step is you're going to be guessing and checking a rule to get you from one number to the other. Okay? So step 3, guess and check a rule to get you from one number to the other. To get from one number to the other. Okay? So when I say guess and check a rule, I mean, what would I multiply 5 times to get 10? 5 times what? 5 times 2, right? What would I add to 5 to get from 5 to 10? I would say 5 plus 5, right? So either it's going to be times 2 or plus 5. Those are my two options, okay? Times 2 or plus 5. So what's going to happen is step 4, which is that you have to check your rule that you pick, that you're guessing and checking. When you're a little bit too zoomed in. Okay. You're going to check your rule for all the other number pairs. All other number pairs in your T-chart. Okay, so what that looks like is we're first going to see, I'm going to do this part in pencil so we can erase if we need to. So let's check the 5 plus 5 rule. So I'm going to put plus 5 equals. So this becomes an equation. Do you see this? Look, this becomes an equation. 5 plus 5 equals 10. Do you agree? Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to check that for the remaining ones. I can't just stop at that one and assume that that's my rule because it may not work for the other ones. I got to check it out. So I need to check my rule for all other number pairs in the T-chart. From the first one to the last one, all of them have to agree. Okay, because basically what's happening is we're putting these numbers into a computer. Here's my computer. This rule is my computer. The computer's going to do something to it when it's in there, and it's going to spit it out different. Okay, so one number goes into computer, spits it out a different number. All right, so let's try. So the rule, again, this is really important that your rule has to be the same for all of these. So let's try plus 5 for this one. Does 6 plus 5 equal 12? Think about it. Does 6 plus 5 equal 12? No, it doesn't. What's 6 plus 5? 11. So that can't be my rule. So I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to put an X through that plus 5 because it can't be plus 5 if that doesn't work for all the number pairs. Okay? So now let's check the times 2. Is 5 times 2 equal 10? Yes, it does. So let's try 6 times 2. Let's count by 2's. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Is 6 times 2 12? It is. So that works. Now we got to try 7 times 2. What's 7 times 2? Let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Is 7 times 2 14? Yes, it is. All right, so let's try 8 times 2 and see if that equals 16. You cannot assume, guys. You cannot just get to the bottom of here and say, oh, yep, it's 8 times 2 is 16. I don't need to work out that math in my head. Because if it works for these, it must work for this one. That is going to get you in trouble. Do not do that. So let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Is 8 times 2 16? It is. Okay, so we found our rule. Our rule is times 2. So any other number that it could be over here, the rule is that it will be multiplied times 2, and that's how you find the number of feet. Okay? So let's say, for example, that I had 12 children. Then I wanted to know how many feet did 12 children have? Well, what am I going to do to 12? I'm going to say times 2 equals. Well, what's 12 times 2? I know that 10 times 2 is 20, and 2 times 2 is 4, so 20 plus 4 is 24. So that's how I would find that out if I was missing some information. Okay? So, when you're checking your rule for all the other numbers in your T-chart, 2 things are going to happen. One of 2 things is going to happen. Okay? One of 2 things is going to happen. You gotta zoom out a little bit more so we can see the bottom of the journal entry. Here we go. Okay, so one of 2 things is going to happen. First thing is that it works. If your first rule that you check, if you guessed plus 5 and that plus 5 worked for all of them and that was the first one you checked, then you're good. So if it works, that's option 1. And guess what? You found your rule. You found your rule. That's an E, by the way. R-O-U-L-E. I'm sorry. R-U-L-E. But if it doesn't work, if it didn't work, dot, dot, dot. So sad. If it did not work, it's kind of blurry. If it didn't work, then that means that you need to check the rule using the other operation. Okay? So that would be a step 5 for us. 5, check a rule. Check a rule with the other operation. Right? So that's what we ended up having to do. So we guessed plus 5 first, right? So we checked the rule for all of the number pairs and we decided, uh-oh, it didn't work. So now we come down to this option and we check the rule with the other operation. All right, so if we had checked times 2 first, well, obviously times 2 worked for all the number pairs. So if it works, then we found our rule. That's how we know. So those are your 2 options. We will be talking lots about input-output tables this week. We'll talk about the TEAC tomorrow and exactly what we're expected to learn in this unit. So thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.